Hey, Brian here with another video on my web application NetChecklist.com. In this video I'm going to talk about working with the checklists copied page. Now the checklist copied page is a page that I find to be very useful, and I've had some people who I worked with have a little bit of trouble grasping the concept, but I think if you take just a few minutes to understand it, then you will see how useful it can be for you as well. So here I am logged in again as my fictional user Bob Broker, who is a member of a fictional company called Perfect Property Management, and I'm on the homepage for that organization right now. You get to the homepage for an organization using this button right here, and it would have, of course, the name of whatever organization you're currently working in. Now, as you hopefully already know, in this application you create checklists and then you use them over and over by making copies of them. And when you copy a checklist, the application adds all of the tasks from the checklist to your task list for you. And you always copy a checklist for a specific project. Now, you always work with the task list on the home page for your organization, which is the page I'm on here. And these are all the tasks that are currently assigned to Bob. So let's first talk about how you get to the checklist copy page. There are two ways. First of all, on the checklist menu up here, if you click the button beside it, the second item is checklist copied, and that takes you to the page. Or on almost every page, there is a button right here on the side for checklists copied, and again, that's there because I find it to be very useful page, so I put that shortcut there. So once you're on this page, each entry that you see on the page represents a copy of a checklist that exists in the database. So it's not the individual tasks that were copied from the checklist, it's an overall representation of the copy of the checklist. And if we look at this one right here, it says that the checklist that was copied was the rental application approved, move forward checklist. It was copied for the project 316 Pineview Avenue, and it was copied on 4/12/16. And 2 of the 5 tasks for this group have been completed. So these 5 tasks are the 5 tasks that were copied to the task list when this checklist was copied, and 2 of them have been completed, so 3 have not been completed. Now the 5 tasks here, that's all of the tasks regardless of who they're assigned to. Right now we're logged in as Bob. Now they might all 5 be assigned to Bob, but they could be assigned to other users. If you don't already know, in the application, when you copy a checklist, you can assign tasks to different members of the organization. So it's going to show here regardless of who they're assigned to. So it doesn't mean 2 out of 5 assigned to Bob. It means 2 out of 5 total. So if you're a manager working in the organization, this is, again, a good place to get a good bird's eye view of where you are on each process. So what makes this page even more useful is that you can filter the list in different ways. Right now, it's showing all of the checklists. Actually, it's showing all of the checklist copies that have at least some uncompleted items. If all of the items on a checklist have been completed, they're going to drop off of this list. But if you ever want to go back and see them under the filter checklist copied page, right now it says, do you want to display completed checklists? The default is no, but if you change that to yes, then it will show even the ones for which all of the items have been completed. Anytime you make any changes here, like if I was to change this to yes, I do need to update the filtering using that button there. Now it tells us that we're seeing all checklist copies, including those that are all complete. And I can clear that either here or I could clear it here. So let's clear that. We can also filter it in different ways. Let's say, okay, right now I've got a copy for 316 Pineview, an application approved, one for Pineview to put the house back up for rent, one for Smith Drive to put the house back up for rent, another one for Pineview that was a tenant move out notice. If I didn't mention it before, these are in reverse chronological order, so the newest copies are going to show up near the top. But let's say and then down here I've got one for Jones Street, a Walnut Street, and a Smith. But let's say I need to just see where I am on Pineview. If I hover over this link right here, a dialog box comes up and it tells me I can click here to display only checklists copied to the task list for this project. So if I click that, now it tells me up here at the top I'm filtering for 316 Pineview. So now I'm only seeing the 3 checklist copies that have uncompleted items for the project 316 Pineview. So I can look at that and I can see that's where I am for this project. I can clear that filter here, or here. Let's clear that. I could do the same thing under this filter checklist copied. If I said I want to filter by a project name, I could select Pineview and update filtering. That would do the exact same thing. It's usually simpler to me to click it over here. Let's clear that. Let's say instead of seeing that, I don't want to see Pineview. I want to see where I am on all of my move out notices. So if I come down here, here's a move out notice. I can see only checklists that were copied using checklist copies using this checklist. So if I click that, now I can see these are my 3 move out notices. So if you wanted to make sure you hadn't missed a move out notice, you could filter for that and see it this way. And that too, you could accomplish the same thing under this filter. As a matter of fact, now since I filtered it there, it's set here, tenant move out notice. And again, I can clear that there or over there. Okay, so you're hopefully already aware that, I'm going to go back to the task list for just a minute. Okay, you're hopefully aware that you can sort and filter your task list in many different ways. And you can do that using some of these same links on the task list. There's a separate video on working with the task list. But you can also filter your task list straight from the checklist's copied page. Let's go back to the checklist copied page. Okay, notice these 3 links down here. Okay, the first one says click here to go to the task list and filter to include only tasks belonging to this project. Let me, before I do that, let me filter this checklist copied page for Pineview only again. So we've got 3 checklists that have been copied for the 316 Pineview. And if I use this button right here to go to the task list, okay, when I go to the task list, now the task list is being filtered for the project 316 Pineview, and there are 6 tasks completed, and these are all for that project. If you go back to the checklist copied page, remember that the task list by default is showing uncompleted items only. So if 2 out of 5 from this checklist are complete, that means 3 are not complete. On this, 1 is not complete, and on this one, 2 are not complete. So that's the 6. So straight from here, we can go to the task list and see only the tasks that belong to that project. Let me go back to the task list and clear this. And let's go back to the checklist copy page, and let's look at the second link. The second link says, click here to go to the task list and filter to include only the 5 items copied with this copy of this checklist. So the first button is going to show us everything that belongs to that project, but this is going to filter only to show the items that came from this copy of this checklist. Okay, so if I click it that way, now only 3 are showing up, and the notification at the top says task filtered for a task group. So that's the difference there. This is everything for that project, and this is only for this checklist copy, so it's not going to display this and not going to display this. So the last button says delete this copy and all of its items. So let's say if here we did an application approved, move forward, and let's say that fell apart and it was not going to happen, we could delete that. Or let's say let me copy another, let's make a duplicate copy of that for the Pineview for Bob, copy checklist. So I just made another copy of a checklist, and by the way, each time you make a copy of a checklist, it takes you to the checklist's copied page. So here we just made a copy of a checklist. It says here 1 checklist was copied successfully and 5 tasks were copied successfully, and there is my new copy of my checklist, and that's clearly a duplicate. Now another way you can find a duplicate, we're already filtering for this project, but you can also filter for a project and for a checklist at the same time. So now we're saying, show me every time the application approved checklist was copied for this project. So when you look at this, one was done yesterday and one was done today. This is clearly a duplicate, so we want to get rid of one. The way to get rid of that is to come to this page. You could go to the task list and delete each individual item, but it can be kind of hard to find them sometimes, especially if there's dependencies and delayed tasks and things like that. But even if you did that, it would still leave this kind of orphaned checklist copy out there. So don't do that. If you need to get rid of an entire copy of a checklist, come to this page, go to this item right here and click delete. It's going to ask you to confirm, and now 5 tasks were deleted and the 1 checklist copy was deleted, and now we only have 1 copy of this checklist for this project in the database. And when you do delete an entire copy of a checklist, it gets rid of all of the items regardless of whether they've been completed, whether they're not completed, whether they're active, inactive, no matter who they're assigned to, no matter when they're assigned. It gets rid of everything that was copied with that checklist. So that's what the checklist copied page does. That's what it can do for you. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you find this page to be as useful as I do. Thanks for watching.